Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council. It is Monday, October 26, 2020, and we are reconvening for open session. Let the record reflect that there was no reportable action taken during the closed session. It is 7:03 by my watch, and I'm calling this meeting to order. This evening, we will have two public hearings. One of them is regarding a CAPER report to HUD from the city. The second public hearing is with regards to Golden Corral. Also, we will have two consideration items this evening. The first one is with regards to mural artwork in two places in our town. The second consideration item will be with regards to our Bellflower traffic calming program. And lastly, we will have 9 consent calendar items. We have no ordinances, and we have no resolutions this evening. Before we begin, please note that all public meetings will be recorded. When a participant logs in via the computer or calls in to join the meeting, their name and/or phone number will be visible to all participants. Unless you are providing public comment, your audio will be muted and your video will be disabled. Persons wishing to be audience members to the meeting may do so anonymously. Anonymous participants, however, will not be recognized for public comment. Persons who seek to bypass the city's host controls will be dropped and blocked from the meeting. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. Madam City Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Hamada.
Here.
Councilmember Santinas.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Here.
Councilmember Dutton.
Here.
Mayor Garza.
Here. Thank you so much for that, Madam City Clerk. This evening, we will be led by Councilmember Ray Dutton in our invocation, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilmember Raymond Hamada. Please rise.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for all the guidance you give us, and thank you for having faith in our decisions for whatever the outcome is. Bless all the residents in our community that we call Bellflower as we try hard to make this a community. Though not always everyone will agree, but Lord, let us always have the faith to get along. And again, Lord, be with the military families and less fortunate. Be with our public safety people and everybody that just does a wonderful job helping society. Protect us as you always do, and make us proud. God, in your name, amen.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. Item number 9, City Council announcements. Let me start that off with, as a reminder, the city's next special and general municipal election will be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, for the election of Councilmember District 4 and for Measure M. All Bellflower registered voters will also have an opportunity to vote on the city's ballot measure, Measure M, along with state and county measures. All registered voters will be mailed a vote-by-mail ballot to ensure a safe and accessible voting option during the COVID-19 pandemic. Mailing of vote-by-mail ballots began on October 5th. Voters will have 10 consecutive days and Election Day to vote in person at any participating vote center in the county. Voting center locations are printed on your sample ballot book and available at the county's website at www.lavote.net. Select vote centers were made available beginning Saturday, October 24. All vote centers will be available beginning Friday, October 30. Vote centers will be open every day from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. during the early voting period. On Election Day, vote centers will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. For more information about this election, please contact the city clerk's office at area code 562-804-1424, extension 2271, or you can also email the city clerk's office at cclerk@bellflower.org. And on a personal note, I actually took advantage of voting at one of these voting centers this morning, the one in Artesia. The one in Paramount. I kept talking to Councilmember Dutton and his experience in Artesia, or his upcoming experience. But I did vote in the Paramount Center, and I can attest to the fact that the volunteers there were nothing but excellent and very COVID-19 safe. And I definitely enjoyed the experience of voting with the new voting machine, so I definitely encourage everyone to vote. So with that, next up on council comments, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This year, more than ever, we need your assistance for the holiday food and toy drive. The Bellflower Volunteer Center is working closely with residents, community groups, churches, schools, service clubs, and organizations to provide Thanksgiving and Christmas food boxes or gift cards to families in need. Low-income families and seniors are referred by the school district and local agencies for assistance during the holidays. Please note that due to COVID-19, we are unable to accept donations of goods as we've done in the past. For Thanksgiving, we are accepting gift cards and monetary donations for canned goods. For Christmas, we're accepting gift cards and monetary donations for canned goods and gifts to be purchased for the children. If you'd like to be a part of this important program, or if you have any questions, please contact the Bellflower Volunteer Center. You can reach them at 562-804-1424, extension 2331, or email mnavarro@bellflower.org. Any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem Coops. Up next, Councilmember Sonny Santa Ynez.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. As fall approaches, families start to plan for the upcoming holiday season, beginning with Halloween. Since some of the traditional ways in which this holiday is celebrated does not allow to minimize contact with non-household members, it's important to plan early and identify safer alternatives. The Los Angeles County Department of Public Health would like to share information on how to take part in this holiday in a manner that reduces the risk of spreading COVID-19. Since some of the traditional ways in which this holiday is celebrated are not permitted this year, consider some safer alternatives that are permitted and recommended, such as online parties and contests like costume or pumpkin carving, car parades that comply with public health guidance on vehicle-based parades, including drive-by events or contests where individuals dress up or decorate their vehicles, and drive-by judges that are appropriately physically distanced, or drive-through events where individuals remain in their vehicles and drive to an area with Halloween displays, or dressing up homes and yards with Halloween-themed decorations. And I can tell you that walking around different neighborhoods and driving around, I can just appreciate some of our neighbors who come out of their way to really decorate their front yards. So please enjoy those decorations in those front yards. So we have, for more information and suggestions on Halloween and fall holidays, are listed at our website, which is www.bellflower.org. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Mayor. Councilmember Sonny Santa Ynez. Up next, Councilmember Raymond Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, first off, good evening, Bellflower. I want to announce that the County of Los Angeles recently launched the Prosper LA website. This website was developed to encourage submission of innovative ideas to help spur economic recovery and identify potential cost-saving actions that can be taken by the county during this time. And again, some of the areas that they are looking for is to streamline business services processes or contracting with the county. So also to have an impact on the community and again benefits to the public. Thirdly, to improve the public's experience with the county government through technology and services. And lastly, to improve how county government utilizes and shares technology to better serve the public. If you have any ideas on how the county can enhance operations and programs, please visit Prosper LA and submit them. For more information, visit prosperla.lacounty.gov. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Hamada. Last but not least, Councilmember Ray Dutton.
Thank you, Mayor. The annual Household Hazardous and E-Waste Roundup will be held at Sims Park in the parking lot on Saturday, November 7th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., with, of course, COVID-19 safety precautions. Attendees are asked to remain in their vehicle with their windows closed, if at all possible. The event staff will only remove household items and e-waste from the trunks of cars and the back of pickup truck beds. This annual event is sponsored by the Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, along with the Sanitation District. For more information, visit www.dpw.la.county.gov. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Dutton. Up next, we have a recognition, actually. So it's recognition of Nonprofit of the Year being observed for the Los Cerritos YMCA. And so because of COVID-19, I know that we traditionally would be normally presenting the certificate to a recipient for the organization. Unfortunately, again, because of COVID-19, we're not able to do that. But we do have a fantastic stand-in here in the name of Mr. Hamada, who is the chair of the board of the YMCA. So with that, Mr. Hamada, and to our Los Cerritos YMCA family, I will read this recognition. And it states, congratulations on being chosen as a 2020 California Nonprofit of the Year by Assemblymember Cristina Garcia. The City of Bellflower is proud of your accomplishment and celebrates the government nonprofit partnership that supports our economies and communities. And it is dated October 26, 2020. It is signed by our whole City Council, Mayor Juan Garza, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Coops, Councilmember Ray Dutton, Councilmember Raymond Hamada, and Councilmember Sunny Santa Ynez. So, Councilmember Hamada,
Pass that through the glass.
Chairman Hamada, we present this to you. Congratulations.
Yes. Great. Let me just kind of, so again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, maybe I just want to quickly highlight maybe some of the projects that maybe prompted the recognition. And during the months of late March through August, the Y served over 250,000 meals to the Bellflower Unified School District kids. And the Y continues to provide childcare during the pandemic, and roughly 40 to 60 kids a week that can, again, come to the Y and be safe and also do their schoolwork from home while their parents are at work. So we're still in business. We love the partnerships, and we're hopefully continuing to grow. So again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, thank you, council, my fellow council members. We truly appreciate this recognition. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's an honor. I mean, considering the size of her assembly district, for this to be the nonprofit of that whole district again. Congratulations for all you do for our community and everyone in the Y family. So item number 10, public comments. Mr. Stewart.
This is the time set aside for the public to address the City Council on matters not listed on the agenda. Those wishing to speak on an agenda item must be utilized one of the methods listed on page 2 of the agenda. You will be given 3 minutes to address the City Council. Attempts to provide comment at times not designated on the agenda may result in the city dropping you from the meeting.
Thank you for that, Mr. Stewart. To the audience, if you would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature. If by computer, it appears under the Participants tab. If by phone app, it will appear under the More button at the bottom right-hand corner. Or if by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand. You will be called upon by the Deputy City Clerk in the order received. You can then unmute your microphone so that you can provide your comments. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public this evening wishing to make comments under our public comments agenda item?
Mayor, I have a person with the title of owner that wishes to present public comment. You will need to identify yourself prior to presenting public comment.
Thank you for that, Madam Deputy City Clerk. To the person under the title owner, can you please identify yourself before you present comments?
Yes, it's Ken Letourneau. Can you hear me?
Great, Mr. Letourneau, welcome.
Mr. Letourneau,
good.
if you will give me just a moment to get the timer on the screen, and then you can begin.
Okay.
And while she's doing that, just for the record, I know that Mr. Letourneau provided some public comments in written form, but again, Mr. Letourneau, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much now. Okay, I see the timer here in front of me. Thank you very much. One of the issues here is in the city of Bellflower. Every realtor, we have a code in force right now that realtors are required to have a business license if they operate in the city of Bellflower. The city of Carson, which we've made some changes there, they have a program very, very well that they collect $600, $500 for brokers, $100 for realtors, and they bring in nearly $500,000 per calendar year for the city of Carson. I notice here in the city of Bellflower, we have a code, but we're not enforcing the code and collecting the revenue for that. Second thing, as well as escrow companies and title companies, I believe if an escrow company or the title company is doing business in the city of Bellflower and not just a location, they are also required to have a business license also if they are collecting revenue. Third thing is on properties. As you know, there are many vacant, not property buildings, but vacant lots, vacant units within a strip mall. So if you have a strip mall with 10 units there, the city only charges $200 to $300 for the building. So if I have 10 units and I'm getting $2,000 per unit on that, I'm getting nearly $20,000 per month in revenue, and the city of Bellflower is only getting $200. Now, I know the city of Lakewood certainly does not have that set up in their malls, that they certainly get a fee on per item of the business, not the business owner, but each business. Second, the last thing also is that we should be basically charging a higher fee for vacant units within that strip mall compared to a regular business. There's businesses here, it's been empty for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years also. Okay, that should be basically additional revenue to be added on. Last thing too is I strongly would highly recommend, now it's only a suggestion, but I would really look into staff or people within the city of Bellflower working for the city of Bellflower to volunteer 5 hours or 10 hours per year for the benefit of the city of Bellflower. You probably saw the city of LA right now has a major financial problem that's happening. That was in the LA County paper this past Friday. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Letourneau. Always open to seeing what other cities are doing and what's working for them. So again, we appreciate your comments this evening, and I'm sure our staff will follow up on some of these ideas. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any other members of the public wishing to make public comment this evening?
Mayor, I'll give the public just a moment to utilize the feature. Mayor, I'm not seeing any other public comment.
Thank you for that, Madam Deputy City Clerk. Okay, so moving on to item number 11A under public hearings, Mr. Stewart.
The first item is consideration of and possible action to conduct a public hearing to receive comments on the fiscal year 2019-2020 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, or the CAPER. and adopt resolution number 20-70, a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit the fiscal year 2019-2020 consolidated annual performance evaluation report to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Mr. DeLong gave me the order, and I forgot, but I believe Travis Seiss is making this first presentation. Jim, if I'm wrong, correct me.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. This is Travis. I'm going to make the presentation. Just one moment as I share my screen. All right, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. The city is conducting a public hearing to review and receive public comments on the fiscal year 2019-2020 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, also known as the CAPER. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development requires that the city annually submit a CAPER, which summarizes the activities and expenditures supported through the use of Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership funds. CDBG funds in particular are meant to improve living environments and promote economic development through job creation and services, and the funds must assist low-income persons, particularly in blighted areas. Last year, HUD allocated approximately $978,000 in CDBG funds towards such activities. These activities include 1, the Fair Housing Foundation, which provided their services to 154 Bellflower households. 2, Kingdom Cause's Bellflower's Good Soils program, which employed 12 residents to provide landscaping services. Number 3 is the Volunteer Center, which added a total of 59 new adult and student volunteers that served over 4,000 hours last year, which benefited over 1,300 persons. Number 4, the city also particularly or partially funds the city's code enforcement activities, specifically in CDBG eligible census tracts. Last year, there were 595 code enforcement cases in these tracts. Number 5, also CDBG funds, or at least half of them, are used for Section 108 loan repayments. The loan was a 20-year, $7 million loan taken out in 2004 to rebuild blighted areas and promote economic development in the downtown. The city is obligated to make payments using CDBG through 2024 annually. The city also uses CDBG funds to pay for program administration and planning costs to ensure complex HUD regulations are met. And lastly, the city reallocated available CDBG funds at the end of last fiscal year for a small business assistance program, which assisted 20 businesses last year. In all, approximately 1.2 million of CDBG funds were expended last year. These funds served over 2,000 persons. On a different note, the city also receives home funds from HUD. Home is meant to retain and increase the affordable housing stock for renters and owners. Last fiscal year, the city received approximately $360,000 in home funds. The home funds are allocated towards certain housing programs throughout the city, the first being the Housing Rehabilitation Program. A total of 7 rehabilitation projects were completed last fiscal year. Next, the city had a first-time homebuyer assistance program. However, the city was unable to qualify an applicant for the program due to the high housing market and HUD restrictions. And as a reminder, this program was discontinued due to the inability to qualify any applicants over the past few years. And then third, home funds are also used for program planning and administrative costs. And lastly, under the home regulations, at least 15% of the home funds must be set aside for a project led by a Community Housing Development Organization, also known as a CHODO. The CHODO line item has been carried over to the next fiscal year in order to build up the CHODO project budget fund to make a meaningful contribution to an affordable housing project. In total, approximately $173,000 was spent from the home funds last fiscal year. These are the primary accomplishments of the city's CDBG and home programs this past fiscal year, and they are reported in the CAPER. The CAPER has been available on the city's website from October 9th through today, and the public notice was duly published in the Wave newspaper. Following HUD's review and approval, the CAPER will be finalized and posted on the city's website. So our recommendation tonight is to open the public hearing, take testimonial and documentary evidence, and after considering the evidence, adopt resolution number 20-70, or alternatively discuss and take other action related to this item. That completes my presentation. Staff is available for any questions.
Thank you for that very comprehensive report, Mr. Saiz. So let's open it up for questions from my colleagues. Let's start off with Mayor Pro Tem Coops. Great.
I have no questions at this time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Mayor Pro Tem Coops. Up next, Councilmember Sunny Santinez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In reading the report, I'm just at awe with how much the city has accomplished these past years. And I really want to commend staff and our project partners for accomplishing this much. Mr. Saiz, thank you so much for your report. I just have a couple of questions. One is, with the great success of this program, what do you think are the factors that are major contributions towards its success?
With just the programs in general, I would definitely say the public service agencies that we work with, along with our Bellflower Volunteer Center. So we have received, a lot of support through volunteers and through the community. So Kingdom Causes Bellflower and the Fair Housing Foundation have also provided and continue to provide just very successful services. So I think it's just a combination of our community really coming together and providing some valuable service to the city.
Okay, great. So again, I really want to emphasize the success that we had, but there's a couple of minor things that we did not meet our expectation, and I'm really curious in terms of on page 9 of 45 of the report to improve and conserve existing affordable housing. The expectation was 25, and we accomplished 21. Do you know why we didn't accomplish our goal? That's number one question. And second is, what can we do to improve our performance, so to speak, next time around?
So what this line item is here, it's actually for the housing rehabilitation program. So this year we actually met our goal. So we did improve 7 homes, and our goal was 5. So over the years, pretty much with the program, it can take time to qualify applicants for the program. And there's also required testing that needs to be done prior to the project and the home actually being approved. So there's lead-based paint testing and asbestos testing. And there's some other environmental just reports and stuff that have to be completed prior to project completion. So sometimes it can take a while to qualify either the applicant, depending on how quickly they can get us the qualification documents and the income documents. And then sometimes the testing can take longer. With COVID, we did have a couple projects too that have been held up a little bit, but we've been continuing to move forward with initial inspections and also the required environmental reviews.
Okay, so let me clarify this. So my understanding from what you said is this is basically just a snapshot as of a given time. So they're still doing some more work. So eventually, we'll most likely meet or even exceed the expectation.
Right. So in the report, this was actually the 5th year of the consolidated plan that this report is on. So that accomplishment that you were just mentioning, 21 out of 25, that is for the 5-year consolidated plan. So this next consolidated plan, we have about 5 projects expected each year. So that would be another 25 for the next 5-year con plan.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's good. And the other question I have is on page 38 of the report. I'm just kind of curious in terms of what are we doing with the unspent money on DH 1.2, development of affordable housing. There was a funding of 784,000, and we haven't spent anything as of the end of 5 years.
That's right. So that's the Chodo project line item that I mentioned. So that's essentially the Chodo budget. So for a Chodo project. So we have been building that up. This current fiscal year, we're at about 1.2 million is what we have set aside for that line item for a Chodo project. So we have been in discussions with various housing developers But what we're doing right now is just continuing to build up that fund so we can make an actual meaning contribution to a Chodo project.
Does any portion of this have any expiration?
So we do have to have a portion of the Chodo funds committed by September 2025. So we do have some time.
So we have time. Okay, very good. Again, overall, it's a good report, and thank you and the whole department and staff for making this a successful program. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Santa Ynez. Up next, Councilmember Raymond Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too, again, want to extend the kudos to the staff, Jim and Travis, again, in regards to the accomplishments and the thoroughness of this report. It's definitely comprehensive, and I know you guys have to really focus on the narrative, and I think you guys did a great job with that. Again, just for the record, I know that some of the money goes to Kingdom Causes, and just for the record, again, I want to state that I'm a volunteer board member, and so I get no financial benefit from it, so I will continue to participate. It's always disconcerting to hear the poverty rate in town, but that's just a statement. And again, again, information is works kind of both ways, So, and again, also, stand with this community in the support of the homeless, and because we are doing the right thing there. So, Travis, you were starting to explain in regards to the Chodo, and I think that will pretty much answer my question. I was trying to kind of get a handle on the timing of a next Chodo project. So it's a money thing right now. Yes, we want to do something meaningful and do a decent amount. So and we have some time to 2025, but again, just continue to keep tabs on that, and if habitat is ready again for this area, that's always a possibility. Jim and Travis, there was a statement on page 23 of 45. It's the second paragraph from the bottom in regards to CDBG funds, again, used to rehabilitate and so on, and then in the second sentence it makes references, again, CDBG typically cannot be used to operate or maintain these facilities for homeless unless it qualifies as a public service. And then the final statement says, again, CDBG funds were not used for the New Hope shelter. So just in reading that, that was more of a choice the city made, or is it there's still opportunity down the road? It's just we got to make certain findings and so on, and then we can channel funds if we have them, accordingly.
So funds could be used for operation costs, but it would have to be classified as a public service. So just a brief refresher. There's a 15% cap on CDBG funds for public services. So this past fiscal year, we had the Bellflower Volunteer Center and Kingdom Causes Bellflower, two public services that were funded, and that was about 14.6%. That's what we were at. So we were kind of maxed out at that public service cap. But in the future, if it's determined that CDBG funds would like to be used to assist with shelter operation costs, we would have to, make some adjustments in the volunteer center and, future public services.
Okay. No, it was a funding issue. So, no, again, I think a very thorough document. I think we got a handle on some of the numbers and, working on some of those projects. Again, I think it's all under that category of progress. So I'm glad we're seeing progress. So Again, I just can't stop from, again, thanking the team here on this one, so. All right, okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Hamada. Up next, Councilmember Ray Dutton.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no questions. I just want to make a comment that year after year, we do a good job with these funds, the way we program them, and I want to commend staff on what they do, getting these funds programmed for the things that we needed to do. And the money is well used. Always not enough, but well used. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Dutton. I also have no questions this evening. And so with that, why don't we open up the public hearing? Is there somebody that'd like to make?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
So I have,
Second.
so I have a motion by Councilmember Santa Ynez and a second by Councilmember Hamada. Without objection, that will be the order. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to make public comment this evening regarding item 11A?
Mayor, I'll give the public just a moment to utilize the feature. Mayor, I'm not seeing any public comment.
I move to close the public hearing.
Great.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Santa Ynez, and I have a second by Councilmember Hamada. Without objection, that will be the order. Gentlemen, any final questions, comments before? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion regarding item 11A.
I'll make a motion for the city council to adopt resolution 20-70.
Second. Son, he's faster to the button.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Santa Ynez and a second by Councilmember Hamada. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamada?
Aye.
Councilmember Santa Ynez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops?
Aye.
Councilmember Dutton?
Aye.
Mayor Garza?
Aye. Thank you for that, Madam City Clerk. Item 11B, Mr. Stewart.
This is consideration, excuse me, and a possible action to conduct a public hearing to consider adopting one, resolution number 20-71, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute agreement file number 616.2 in a form approved by the city attorney with Golden Flower Inc., DBA Golden Corral Buffet and Grill for downtown alcohol licensing assistance and alcohol service at 17308 Bellflower Boulevard in accordance with the Economic Development Business Assistance Plan. And two, resolution number 20-72, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute loan agreement file number 616.3 in a form approved by the city attorney with Golden Flower Inc., DBA Golden Corral Buffet and Grill, to grant loan funds for restaurant improvements at 17308 Bellflower Boulevard per the Economic Development Business Assistance Plan. And I believe Mr. DeLonge himself is doing this one.
Almost, Jeff. I've got
Mayor.
Mika sitting next to me. She's going to do the presentation on this one.
Okay,
hold
off, staff, if you don't mind, Mr. Dutton. Councilmember Dutton has an announcement.
I need to recuse myself from this item, Mayor, because I own property within 500 feet of this item.
Not a problem. Thank you for that, Councilmember Dutton. Like the record reflect that Councilmember Dutton stepped out of the chambers at 7:41, please. Thank you for that. Okay, staff, go ahead, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Mayors of the City Council. Tonight's public hearing is to consider a grant application from Ihsan Shakabai on behalf of Golden Flower Inc., otherwise known as Golden Corral. His application is for Chapter 1 of the Business Assistance Program for Downtown Alcohol Licensing Assistance and Chapter 2.1 for Restaurant Improvements. The Business Assistance Program provides loans or grants to attract and retain business, thereby promoting the city's economic development. For background, Golden Corral opened at 17308 Bellflower Boulevard on February 18th, 2015. The restaurant has served as a dining destination with a premier location just off the 91 freeway. Mr. Shakabai has struggled to maintain business and remain open during the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to the current food service limitations for buffets, Golden Flower Inc. is using this time to apply for a CUP for alcohol service indoors, as well as for future service for an outdoor patio. Chapter 1 will provide a fee waiver for processing of the CUP. Currently, the public health order does not allow for any indoor dining. In addition to Chapter 1 service, Mr. Shakabai is applying for Chapter 2.1 of the Business Assistance Program, which will provide a forgivable loan up to $25,000 for restaurant improvements. This program pays for 50% of the overall project through invoice reimbursement. The guidelines of this program allows funds to be used for construction of a permanent patio for outdoor dining. Outdoor dining is now essential for all restaurants during this pandemic, and Mr. Shakabai is looking toward the future to ensure that Golden Corral stays competitive with an enhanced outdoor dining experience. Plans are actively being developed, and here are some examples of outdoor dining that have been considered. A final patio design will meet planning and buildings requirements and expectations. If approved, the program will absorb Golden Flower Inc.'s modified CUP application, staff time and legal fees estimated between $3,500 and $5,000, and provide a reimbursable forgivable loan up to $25,000 for the patio construction. Economic Development staff has reviewed the Golden Flower application for assistance and determined that they do qualify. This assistance will support Mr. Shakabai's efforts to keep Golden Corral a successful business and promote local economic development. Tonight, staff recommends the City Council open the public hearing, take documentary and testimonial evidence, and after considering the evidence, adopt resolution number 2071 and 2072, authorizing the city manager to execute agreements file number 616.2 and 616.3 with Golden Flower Inc. for downtown business assistance chapters. Staff is available to answer any questions, and Mr. Hassan Shakabi is also on the call to provide any additional details. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Anika. So let's move on to questions from our city council. Let's start off with Councilmember Sunny Santinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Anika, just a couple of questions. First of all, I want to make a comment that I'm really glad that our city is able to help our businesses, especially during these very difficult times. And I'm glad we have the funding to help them out in their business. My first question is on the alcohol license, the CUP. Are they applying only for beer and wine license?
Yes, it's just going to be for beer and wine.
Beer and wine only. Okay, very good. And then you mentioned that regarding the plans for outdoor improvements, so the plans have not been finalized yet?
We've explored several options, and right now, as of staff recommendations, we're all kind of leaning towards a 6-inch raised deck for ADA compliancy, and it kind of fits the outfit of the exterior of the building. Mm-hmm. And so he is working with prevailing wage contractors for an estimate and for table count and use.
Will there be any kind of permanent structure outdoors, or just basically just temporary?
This is considered a permanent outdoor. It's going to have things, and he'll have some permanent umbrella shades, and there'll be some permanent seating built in as well.
Okay. So are they working with any architect?
They're beginning to. They are seeking prevailing wage workers for this project. And so I think at the point right now, they're just wrapping their head around the size and the budget estimates.
Okay. And then do you have any ideas in terms of which side of the restaurant they're, thinking of doing this expansion? Is it on the east, the south, or the west?
It would be on the southeast. As indicated on the plans on the PowerPoint, we have.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, the red square, and then they did a drawing and submitted an idea to us about what their intention is. Mm-hmm. And so building and planning have just laid eyes on it, and there's nothing formally proposed just yet.
So in terms of the funding that is available, So the city will fund up to $25,000 since they have not finalized the plans yet. So that's our contribution is fixed up to that amount, right? 50% of the total?
Yes. Yes, up to $25,000.
Of 25,000. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Santa Ynez. Up next, Councilmember Raymond Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This request is very similar to that of the Nes Tambian, correct? It's almost like a, yeah. So at least, at least we're seeing these for this one, this golden opportunity to move on this. So, when I was surprised that it's been 5 years now that Golden Crowd's been in. So, and it definitely fell in one of those unique businesses in this area. So, it draws from a region rather than just in town. And so this is one that will need to compete, and we want to keep. And this is what's happening now. This necessary trend of doing outdoor dining, and so it's something that definitely, hopefully, can move forward as quickly as possible and get this business back at some of those high levels that they were at. I don't know if you know any. Since COVID, what are they saying? How much they're down by? Is that in the report? A lot. Yeah, okay. Yes, I figured a lot, but are they talking about now half their business gone? At least. Wow. All right. So it's imperative, I think. Yeah, and I thought it was pretty straightforward. They are willing to match the contribution for the 2.1 chapter requirement, and so it's good we have this opportunity, and so just other than timing, what do they think they can if they go through the building process, and are they trying to get this all done by Christmas?
That would be an early estimate of the project. As soon as we know the answer moving forward with some of the prevailing wage contractors, he is required by the program to provide several bids, and he is actively working on that as we speak. So once a number is kind of squared away and we figure out how to move forward with building and planning, I think the project can start to take shape this holiday season and be complete maybe at the top of 2021.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Hamada. Up next, Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anika, can you tell us the mechanics of how this works in terms of, I see the location in the front area there. That's strictly going to be where people are going to be served food. There'll be no cooking outside?
No, it's just going to be for outdoor dining, and he is applying to serve beer and wine outside the patio as well.
Councilmember Coops, Jeff, Stewart, and I.
Sorry, just right quick, staff. I think we have some technical issues occurring at this point in time.
You could try again and repeat that. You broke up badly, and so did Jim.
The outdoor dining patio will be.
You know what? We still have technical issues. Mr. Stewart, would it be too much to ask him to come down here and actually answer questions from the?
That's fine. Nika, why don't you come on downstairs and answer the questions? You'll be the only one in these chambers. I think you're safe enough.
Thank you for that, Mr. Stewart and staff, for this. And maybe in the meantime, if we can get, I'm not sure if the technical issue is here in the back or maybe in cyberspace. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Apparently so. I thought Darth Vader was answering it.
Good evening, Councilmember Coops. Can you hear me any better here?
Yes, we can hear you better there, Anika. You just need to get closer to the speaker.
Okay, I'm at Travis's computer presenting.
That's actually much better. So with that, Mr. Stewart, if you're okay, we can continue this session. Okay, Anika, the floor is yours.
Okay. In regards to the question that Councilmember Coops proposed, regarding the patio, it was only going to be for food service, just to take your plates outside or be served and dine outside on the patio, as well as for future alcohol, beer and wine service.
In addition, Councilmember Coops, staff has worked with county to allow Golden Corral to serve cafeteria style. So once they get the outdoor seating, they'll be able to have people go inside, pick up their food cafeteria style, and then return to the seats outside.
Okay. So it's the same program, it's just we're outside the building rather than inside the building.
Correct. Since they're still not allowed to even have any people eating inside.
Well, and there's modifications on the serving as well. So there's still barriers and 6-foot standards they have to ensure on the service itself. So it won't be self-served. There'll be cafeteria style serving in the building. So there is a change there.
Can they still utilize the interior as long as they obey the distancing and the 25% rule?
They are using the interior for the serving the food, but patrons will not be able to stay and eat there. And we actually worked hard with the county to try to get one of the rooms open with outdoor exits, separate outdoor exits, et cetera. We couldn't get that done, but maybe on the next step. But the county has worked pretty hard on allowing them to move forward to serving their food cafeteria style. So we think that's a decent victory, and I think Golden Corral can muddle along until they get more open, hopefully in the new year.
So is Golden Corral currently closed? They cannot serve any
They
food?
open, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, they open for limited service, right, on takeout?
Correct. And they have minor outdoor seating.
Okay. Jim, you may remember me, it was Brian Lee that was here when we got this project approved. And one of the things that we had a lot of consternation about was that the Golden Corral ownership demanded to be 189 parking spaces. How does that impact the number of parking spaces if we roll this into outdoor areas?
Jim, I think I can address that. I think that the current franchise owner is so disenchanted with current ownership, and frankly, current ownership has declared at least some form of bankruptcy on this project as well, provided zero oversight. They're going to move forward regardless.
Okay, but you remember that discussion?
Yeah, we had that discussion. Yeah, and I actually had the discussion with the franchise holder, and he's going to move forward with this plan. And
So he's not concerned for the parking situation?
not at all.
He's done with that?
Yeah.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem Coops. For me, just a couple things. One is, and I know this is early on in the design process of this extension, which I completely commend and encourage as we all adjust to COVID. But one is there some sort of covering that's being proposed for this? I ask because of the upcoming inclement weather that we're going to be getting. If not, I would just recommend.
Sure. Anika, why don't you go ahead and go? I know you had mentioned some kind of umbrella covering. Do you have any more detail on that?
Yes, Jim is switching the slide. There you go. We are considering, due to some of the wind speeds and some of the cost of putting permanent structures up, patios and patio awnings, one of the considerations were movement of patios as the dining options can vary. Right now, currently in LA County, you can only sit 6 people per party per table. And as the numbers may move around here and there as we go through COVID studies, having some permanent structures like the sample on the right would serve a lot of shade for dining parties, and then some of the more mobile umbrellas that still match the exterior of Golden Corral could be used.
Okay, great.
Anika, how about inclement weather? That was the specific question. Is there anything being put up to enable them to work through the rain season that we expect coming up in the next few months?
There isn't anything proposed right now. That is where building and planning will also provide some input toward the project.
Thank you for that stuff. Again, just thinking ahead, it's obviously, the owner's right to design whichever project. In the interest of giving them support to succeed, that may be something for them to consider. And then the last thing is regarding any heating element. Again, I would just encourage that to have more options. Again, we are about to embark on winter, so that was really it on my end. Just more comments, really. So with that, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Can I get a motion to
Open the public hearing.
Second.
So I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Coops and a second by Councilmember Santa Ynez. Without objection, that will be the order. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to make comment regarding this evening's item 11B?
Mayor, I'll give the public just a moment to utilize the feature. Mayor, I'm not seeing any public comment.
Thank you for that, Madam Deputy City Clerk. Anybody wish to make a motion on closing the public hearing?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Coops and a second by Councilmember Hamada. Without objection, that will be the order. Gentlemen, any last questions, comments regarding this evening's item 11B?
Mayor, just one more question.
Please.
Mr. De La Longa, assuming that we utilize $25,000 for the match on this project, how much more money is going to be left under Chapter 2.1 of this program?
This and the other projects we're working on pretty much does it for us on that program for last fiscal year and this fiscal year.
Okay. So we're down to zero. All right, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Any other questions, comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just
Yes,
quickly, staff, with this project, potentially pushing out the use, out into the parking and drive areas, is there a project still being discussed for that vacant area?
We have not heard anything of late.
Nothing? All right. Okay, no, all right. That'll be all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Not a problem, Councilmember Hamada. Any other questions, comments?
Anika has a correction for me. I misspoke with regards to how much money is left.
Oh, we'll have about, we'll be able to fund about $40,000 worth of project.
After
Yes.
this.
15 or 40?
No, after this. Assuming
Yes,
we give them 25,000, how much is left?
We'll have 40.
Oh, 40. Oh, okay. Oh, good.
Well, not bad for a nonprofit,
Wow,
huh?
better than zero. Okay. Wow. Thank you. That's good news.
It is. Any other questions, comments, gentlemen? All right. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion regarding 11B.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion to adopt resolutions 20-71 and 20-72.
I'll second that motion.
Great. So I have a motion by Councilmember Hamada and a second by Councilmember Santa Ynez. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamada.
Aye.
Councilmember Santa Ynez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Aye.
Mayor Garza.
Aye. Thank you for that, Madam City Clerk. Can we call Councilmember Dutton back into the chamber? Thank you so much. Yes. Welcome, Mr. Dutton. Let the record reflect that Councilmember Dutton rejoined our meeting at 8:01 p.m. We have no ordinances or resolutions for consideration this evening. Item 13A, Mr. Stewart.
This is consideration of possible action to approve the mural artwork for the Lakewood Boulevard 91 Freeway Underpass and the tower behind Ham Bones and the Stand-Up Club in Town Center Plaza as part of the public art program. This is Mr. Delalonga. I'll make staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Am I sounding okay? I'm back on my other computer.
You're a
Sound
little
perfect.
bit fuzzy, Mr. Delalonga.
Okay. We'll go to the other computer then. Anika will do the slides. Stand by.
Thank you.
And this is okay. This is what we do with COVID, right? We adjust and we move forward. So.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Mr. Delalonga, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you could change the slide, please, Anika. Staff received direction from City Council on October 14th to proceed with the murals at 2 proposed locations. So if you could do the slide there for me, Anika.
Mr. Delalonga, your PowerPoint is not showing yet.
Okay.
Madam Deputy City Clerk, can you please share the screen with Anika?
Yes, it should be shared with her.
The mural's a PJ, right?
Okay, Mr. Delalonga, you're ready to go ahead and present.
Yay. All right. Staff received direction from City Council on October 14th to proceed with the murals at 2 proposed locations, the Tower in Town Center Plaza, and as is suggested by Mayor Garza, the Lakewood Boulevard 91 Freeway underpass. Staff is now returning for approval of the mural designs at those locations. Go ahead and go to the next slides. So those are the underpass locations. And then you can go to the next slide, Anika. So first, let's take a look at the Town Center Plaza location. Slide change. There we go. So it'll go from that, and go ahead and hit the changer to that. This is a fun, eye-catching, bigger than life design that has elements of Bellflower's past and current operators at Town Center Plaza, as well as the city's diversity. It also celebrates the previous use of the building, the Youth Cultural Arts Foundation Theater, while looking ahead to the opening of the Stand-Up Comedy Club. The mural will wrap around the east and the west sides of the tower to complete the look. And there are 2 options for the side panel that are in the staff report. There's the clouds and the checkerboard, or the windmill, hills, and city silhouette. The large display of characters is signature to Dave Van Patten's art. So if you can do the next slide, Anika, it'll show this kind of the side view. That was the real me back there. Now let's take a look at the proposed artwork for the Lakewood 91 Freeway mural location. Go ahead and switch. Each of these panels are proposed to be 16 feet tall by 24 feet wide and would be visible to pedestrians and commuters waiting at the traffic signals around the underpass. Go ahead and switch. Murals depicting nature's 4 elements of earth, air, fire, and water can be found throughout art history and in mural designs nationwide. Mr. Van Patten selected 2 elements, water and air, and incorporated a timeline by displaying 2 children transforming into adulthood through their childhood interests. In these examples, the 2 kids are fishing and then become scuba divers, and the other 2 become astronauts. The illustration speaks to adults, reminding them of their childhood dreams, and engages the community youth to think big. The whimsical design is interesting to look at and exudes positivity. One pair, as shown, will go on the west side of Lakewood Boulevard, and the other pair will go on the east side. Since the last city council meeting, staff has tried to contact Caltrans a couple of times and is still waiting for a response. The proposed cost for the murals at these sizes at these locations is $35,000 to $40,000. There is sufficient funding for this project in the economic development account. You can change to the next slide, Anika. Based on the foregoing, staff recommends the City Council approve the proposed artwork designs for murals located at the Lakewood Boulevard 91 Freeway Underpass and the Tower at Town Center Plaza, or alternatively, discuss and take other action related to this item. This concludes my report, and staff is available to answer questions related to this item.
Thank you for that, staff, for the update on the proposed artwork here. So why don't we do it this way? Let's focus on one and then the other mural first. Let's do the tower mural first, and we give feedback on that, and then after we finish with that, and then we'll go over to the underpass, if that's okay with you, gentlemen. So let's start off with the tower mural. So first off, Councilmember Raymond Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are quite nice. Again, very, very colorful, very thought-provoking, and very, as it was described, whimsical. I like it. If there's a vote for which one, I would vote for the windmills. So, that's.
Great. Thank you for that, Councilmember Hamada. Up next, Councilmember Ray Dutton.
I like it. I think it's a good pick to put something there. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Dutton. Up next, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know what I was expecting. This wasn't it, however. So I got to do along here because we are being whimsical. Not exactly Rembrandt, but we don't want Rembrandt there. We want something whimsical. And if I had to choose between the two, I, of course, lean towards the windmilled one on the right and on the lower one. But I think that based on who uses that center, which is primarily young people and kids, and it used to be homeless people, but that's not the case anymore. I think it's suitable for what we're doing, and I approve it.
So just out of respect, did you prefer something else?
No, well, I just didn't know what to expect. And I don't know, we have dogs on skateboards, for heaven's sake. So, we have fun stuff. And I heard the explanation of how we're incorporating all these different objects in the picture. And I couldn't explain it, but I'm sure someone with a deeper meaning than I could. I never was good at art. I don't claim to be good at art. But this is obviously the year 2020, moving on 2021, and this is the future. So we got to, but I really didn't have anything exactly in mind. Only thing I wanted to impress, and I think we've followed the model, is to try to get this one done as soon as possible so you can enjoy it as mayor, because as you heard, the Caltrans isn't responding to what's going on in the other deal. So that might come a little later. But if this can be done sooner rather than later, that's the main thing for me.
That's very kind of you. And frankly, I've always been a fan of doing things right, and speeding things up. So I'm happy that the conversation has spurred and we're on it. But frankly, I'm okay if the council, these are really nice, right? But if the council envisions or prefers a different model or a different concept, I am completely open, out of respect, Mayor Pro Tem Coops, so just know that it doesn't have to be this.
Well, I don't have a better idea. I'm just surprised at this idea. But I know that based on what we have done on the New Hope Shelter and what we've done on the mural on the side of the nest, that this is the way we're going. So I don't want to impede that. How's that? Okay.
Not a problem, sir.
Right.
Okay. So let's move on to who's next? Councilmember Santinas. Sorry. And so again, the floor is open. So
what were you expecting?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, actually, I was very impressed with the characters here, the presentation, because I look at it based on what was it before on the other side, which was a theater. So I think the artist captured the essence of the theater behind it, and having the luxury of, or the privilege of having toured the stand-up comedy indoors, I think this will kind of attract audiences into the comedy club because it's more of theatrical. So there's some meaning to it.
Well, I need help here, so I appreciate.
So that's why if you go in front, either it was a theater before Wake Up, or now it's going to be stand-up comedy. So I think there is a good representation of the other side
yeah, I
of
didn't
the
see
building.
that portion, the theatrics. Of
Yeah,
it.
exactly, and especially with the comedy now. Who knows? One of the comedians might be dressed up one of these people characters here. So I really like it the way it's presented, and then I also agree with the side of the mural, which is the windmill, for two reasons. One is the heritage of Bellflower, and secondly, there's don't forget about the store. There is the Holland International Store next door.
Right.
So
draws it in.
so it kind of draws it kind of indirectly helps that business also in a way. So again, I think it's a good presentation, and I'm really for it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Councilmember Santa Ynez. For me, I'll just say it this way: ditto. Everything you just said, and everything, including the windmill concept on the sides of the tower. And so, with that, if I've heard correctly, the consensus is it would be the number 2, the one with the windmill, correct?
Yep.
Correct? Yeah. Okay. So we got that one. We'll move on then. And any questions or comments regarding the tower mural for now before we move on to the freeway?
One.
Yes, please.
It looks like it's coming up short. I don't know if that's because of its scuff marks or whatever, but I don't know if it's. I'm not the guy that designs it, but should it go all the way to the bottom? It just looks funny.
I think he designed it from that concrete base, kind of up from that. So we can look at bringing that blue farther down and getting that base in as well.
Okay.
Great point.
And
Thank
also,
you.
Anika let me know that Dave Van Patten can start on this mural this week.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, we'd like a motion and a vote on this. Staff would like.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this tower mural with the one with the windmills.
You know what? I'm sorry. Before we go on, though, I'd like to give the audience a chance as well. Just no, it's okay. If you don't mind holding your motion, Councilmember. Okay. So yeah, we'll do each one of them separately then. And so, any other questions or comments regarding the tower mural before? So if there's no more commentary from my colleagues, then Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to make comment regarding tonight's item 13A, specifically on this tower mural that we're considering right now?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Victor Sanchez would like to present public comment. Jim, I'm going to have to stop your PowerPoint for just a moment so I can put up the timer, if that's okay.
Okay.
Mr. Sanchez, if you'll give me just a moment to get the timer on the screen, and then you can begin.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Sanchez.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, city staff, and fellow Bellflorians. It is a pleasure to be here this evening to share a little bit of thoughts and feedback on the tower mural that you are proposing this evening. I like the design. I do like to echo some of the comments made by council member Sunny Santa Ynez on the making a design that's Instagrammable and somewhere where people want to come and take pictures with and images. I also like and agree with Councilmember Dutton, who says that it should be something all the way down to the floor, and maybe on the bottom section, considering something where people can actually pose to. You see this in New York, and you see this in Chicago a lot in artwork, where people will travel 30, 50 miles just to get to these places to take pictures. And they're usually sometimes they're wings or they're things of that nature. I'm not saying, use wings for this specific project, but create something where people will pose, and something that can be Instagrammable and IG friendly, and something that will attract the youth to come out and then hopefully eat at Ham Bones and hopefully eat at Steelcraft, or, after they actually participate in our community club and actually attend it, they can go back there and take pictures. That draws attention. So I would definitely consider that on the bottom section. Don't know what the idea would be. I'm not an artist per se, but that is a trend, and that's something that that has been around for the last decade, and it will continue that way. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Sanchez. And I'm sure staff will follow up on your recommendation regarding that bottom portion. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any other members of the public wishing to make comment regarding the CDB's item 13A, specifically the tower mural?
Yes, Mayor. Ms. Ebony Beaufort would like to present public comment. Ms. Beaufort, if you'll give me a moment to get the timer on the screen, and then you can begin. Go ahead, Ms. Beaufort.
Hi, it's Ms. Beaufort. Hi, Mayor. Hi, council members. I'm a student from APU University, so this is my first time in a council meeting ever, but we had to do this for school. But I just wanted to say I like that mural. I live right around the corner from Hambones, so I can't wait to see that mural, and I'm enjoying listening to all of you guys' comments tonight. So I just wanted to say thank you for letting me join in, and I'm still listening.
Thank you for joining us this evening. You did great, and we appreciate your comments. Thank you so much. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any other members of the public wishing to make comment on the tower mural?
Mayor, I'm not seeing any other public comment.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Madam City Clerk, and to the members of the public for their comments regarding the tower mural. So, with that, any final questions or comments, council members? If not, Mr. Dutton, did you still?
Yeah, I made a motion. It still holds.
Okay, great.
And I'll support it.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Dutton and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Coops. Madam City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamada?
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops?
Aye.
Councilmember Dutton?
Aye.
Mayor Garza?
Aye. Thank you so much for that, Madam City Clerk. And so now we'll move on to the freeway underpass mural. Mr. De La Longa. Oh, actually, no, he already made his report on this. So let's go with questions from my colleagues. Mr. Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jim, what about the north and south facing ends? Is that just going to be just repainted? And also, I'm going to extend to what's in between. Will that just be freshened up?
Well, we'll look at the north and the south end. We were thinking of doing the Bellflower logo on those entry points so that you would see those as you drive by. So we're open to ideas for that. And then your second question was regarding continuing into the tunnel a little bit, I guess. If that's the case, we could look at expanding the mural and making it bigger, but it will increase the cost.
Well, that was not intended, at least my comments. I was just more so just, again, cleaning it up.
Oh, you meant
the project. If not, the artist or, city will, or maybe Caltrans will paint. Yeah.
Good luck.
No, that was all. Just want to be sure what, at least, just to make sure at least we're not going to forget about those areas. And, once, we're going to invest in some great artwork, and then, the surroundings need to get cleaned up too. And that, again, as I mentioned at probably the prior meeting about Caltrans and their maintenance of slopes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for those comments, Councilmember Hamada. Councilmember Ray Dutton.
Thank you, Mayor. I must have misunderstood the last meeting. I thought we were putting the mural just on the triangle portion where the dirt embankment goes on it. And I knew we weren't putting it in the center because I've driven by it so dark in the middle of that bridge because it's so wide. And it's actually 3 bridges, so you have a light. Where we have these murals now, they're over one of the outside bridges where you have light on both sides, so they're brightened. It just looks to me, I think it's a great idea putting it where you're putting it. I just thought it was going to go on the embankment side. But as Ray Hamada said, I think we need to put a logo and paint out that triangle wedge. I don't think that could be that much money, but make that corner look finished. It looks unfinished. And then I know Mr. Hamada said, what about the middle or whatever, but I don't know, leave it the way it is or paint it the same gray color we have on Bellflower Boulevard and just leave it blank. But that can be done later if it doesn't look good. But I would approve all these murals. I think they look great and they mean a lot. And I would hope that we could probably wrap it around the corner and just paint it out with a logo is fine with me.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Dutton. Up next, Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with what Mr. Dutton said. if we can just put a logo on that edge there to kind of break it up a little bit, but to add any more than what is being presented, I'm kind of like less is more. I don't want to put too much out there, it gets too busy, and then you lose the meaning of it. So I think stay with what we have, location is fine, but put an emblem or logo of the city on that other flat space there, and that'll be sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Santa Ynez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think that just to follow up on the logo, I think we only need two logos anyway. One on the south facing south and facing north. As you drive. Jim, I'm not an artist, but I love art. I think I understand what the artist is trying to portray here. I like the depiction, the subject. It kind of gives us a lot of hope in terms of the children being someone else when they grow up. So I think that is the clear message here, and I like that kind of message. And I also like the coloring in terms of the middle section of this artwork, which emphasizes what they are and what they could be. My only concern is because of the insufficiency of light. The grace colors, will they stand out? For example, if you look at the boy and the girl holding a astronaut figures, that's going to be clear to me in terms of when if I drive underneath the freeway, it's going to be very clear. But the surroundings, if it's well lighted, it's perfect. But my concern is it's sometimes going to be dark. So is the use of the gray color the right color to use?
Well, it matches with the wall, and I think it provides a canvas on which the artist can put those objects on the wall. So, and again, as you mentioned, the brighter colors are in the center, bringing your focus to the figures and what they're doing. So, we could look at maybe making some of the other colors a little bit brighter, up the tempo on those colers on the outside a little bit to see.
Maybe, yeah. Okay. So it can be more visible, because I'm assuming that the underpass basically will not be well lighted. So those kind of grace colors will just basically go away.
We'll talk to the artist and try to get a little bit brighter colors on the outside.
Okay. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Santa Ynez. And so for me, one idea to engage Caltrans, maybe I'm not sure if we've reached out to our senator's office or our assembly member's office. I tend to find that usually when I go that route, they tend to respond. Any state agency tends to respond a little quicker. But so if we haven't done that, I'd recommend that. If we've done that already, I wouldn't be surprised by the reaction we're getting, but I figure I'd throw it out there just in case. And then lastly, regarding the triangle, the city logo and the triangle, I completely agree. One of the things the objectives that I had in mind in proposing this was of putting the city stamp on this as people travel, so that way they know not only where they're at, but also the offerings that we have here in Bellflower. So. And then third, obviously, really more importantly, is just, the continued investment in our west side. And I think this is a reflection of that as well. So I like the theme. I like the colors. I think it's very inspirational, as Councilmember Santa Ynez said as well. So I like them, and I thank staff and the artists for these concepts for now. So any other questions or comments before we go to the public?
Yeah, I have one there. On the four triangle pieces, I think a logo ought to go on four. I know, Sonny, with all due respect, I know you said traffic's going one way, we probably only need one, but there's a signal on each side. When you're setting at a signal, you're going to see both of them, even though the traffic's going. When you're driving through, you're still, because Bellflower Boulevard's that way. You see them both coming and going. And then the other thing is the gray that we have under the Bellflower Boulevard one looks a lot better. The white was always dirty and dusty from the pollutants. It was always, and then they put new paint on it. I think the gray hides the dirt a little easier, because the dust kind of was just adherent to the white when Bellflower Boulevard used to be white. So, but I see what your point is, that you want the colors to pop. But I think Jim had
at least some of it, because otherwise, if you look at just an example, all I can see here will be the two kids on, around the yellow thing.
Right, yeah. Maybe some pinstriping around it. I
Yeah,
don't know.
something
That's
like
what artists have got to,
or something
that's artists'
like
job.
the fish,
But-
make it colorful, things
Yeah.
like that.
Great. Those are great comments. Any other comments before we go to the public? We're good? Okay. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to make comment regarding this evening's item 13A, specifically the 91 Freeway Underpass murals before us this evening?
Mayor, I'm not seeing any public comment.
Great. Thank you for that, Madam Deputy City Clerk. So if there's no other comments, questions, I will entertain a motion regarding these murals.
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve the plan as presented.
Great. Is there a second? Council?
Or discussed.
Yes.
I'll second it if it's
Modified, yes.
presented and discussed.
As presented.
Modified.
Yeah, go on, there we go.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Santinez, a second by Councilmember Dutton to approve the 4 renderings. On top of that, for there to be the city logos on each one of the 4 triangles, and for there to be an exploration of making the colors pop up more, correct?
And Councilmember Hamada's proposal to clean up the middle section.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's
Okay.
something that can come later. I don't think we want the artist to paint
You're correct.
a squall. I think Public Works could probably
Perfect.
paint it out or something later or something.
Not a problem. So I think we're pretty clear on the instructions. So with that, Madam Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamada.
Aye.
Councilmember Santinez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Aye.
Councilmember Dutton.
Aye.
Mayor Garza.
Aye. Thank you for that, Madam City Clerk. Item 13B, Mr. Stewart.
This is consideration of possible action to provide direction regarding a Bellflower traffic calming program, and Mr. Gurecki is here in person to make the presentation.
Welcome, Mr. Gurecki.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. So before you tonight, my screen just disappeared. Oh, there it is. Before you tonight, I have a quick presentation on the City of Bellflower traffic calming program. To kind of look back as a background, late last year, we were looking at possibly doing a demonstration project on one of our residential streets for speed humps in response to some of the speeding and vehicle complaints we've received there from the residents. The idea leading into that was to do a demonstration project, but at the time the council had directed city staff to look at a more long-term encompassing traffic calming program, not just applicable to a specific street, but a policy that we could take a look at all things traffic calming here in the city of Bellflower. So with that, we worked with Wildan Engineering, and Wildan put together a draft program, which I will briefly go through with you this evening. That was all ready to go until we got bit by the COVID bug. As a result, we've continued to table this project here because we wanted to make sure that we could fully vet it out in a public forum. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like anything's changing anytime soon for us from the situation that we're in, where we're meeting on Zoom and all that. So instead of continuing to table this, I think it was best to bring it before the council and at least let you guys take a look at the draft that Wildan put together for us, and then we can talk a little bit more specifically about some of the different aspects of the plan here tonight. So, just as background, each year, whether it's City Hall or over in the Public Works Department, the city staff fields more than a handful of phone calls regarding vehicle safety concerns, car speeding, pedestrian safety, and typically these inquiries come to us and they start off with, you need to put a speed hump in right now because of this, or they'll explain what the problem is, and then they'll end it by saying we need to put a speed hump in or a stop sign or something. So there is, in fact, no one-size-fits-all solution. Every street is different. Every neighborhood is different here for us. What could work on one street does not necessarily work the next street over, just because of the physical configurations, driveways, different vehicles, and the size of vehicles that go through the streets. So what we have here is the draft from Wildan. It's the traffic calming program. It reviews various traffic calming measures, as I stated, and it essentially puts them into a quote-unquote toolbox that we could use for future development when we're looking at specific traffic calming policies. The toolbox identifies sample policies, procedures, and offers a framework for potential selection, funding, design, traffic studies, and other appropriate measures to come up with solutions to traffic. So like I said, the toolbox, it includes a widespread variety of measures. It starts with some of the most basic stuff, which we currently do. We work hand in hand with the Public Safety Department, and in turn, they work closely with the Sheriff's Department. And we're constantly working on traffic enforcement. That's first and foremost when it comes to traffic calming measures. You have to provide that enforcement. And unless there's sheriff's, staff out there and they're enforcing the laws, then anything that we put in would be completely disregarded. So in addition to the increased traffic enforcement or the ongoing efforts that we make with traffic enforcement, there's also the safety education and the community involvement program. And this typically comes, again, out of the Public Safety Department in the realm of the neighborhood watch programs, where they're out there, they're with their community, they're taking feedback, they're taking suggestions from the community, as well as educating them on what can and cannot be done. I mean, unfortunately, I can't put rolls of speed humps or chokers right down the middle of Lakewood Boulevard. It just doesn't work like that. So they're very instrumental during the neighborhood watch meetings in conveying information of what we can and cannot do here in the city to the public. At the same time, taking the feedback from the public and bringing it back to us. So in addition to that, we already currently have a radar speed feedback trailer that is deployed almost on a daily basis here in the city. When public safety or public works, when we get phone calls regarding speeding issues, we work in conjunction with one another, identify the area, identify a good place to put it. We place the trailer out there, and we get a pretty good idea of what's going on in terms of some of the sample data that we're able to collect, and as well as we're notifying the drivers, hey, here's the posted speed limit, and this is what you're doing. In addition to the radar signage, we've also gone through and modified some street signs and some high visibility signs. We'll also look at installation of curb markings. This is additional red curb to give more line of sight for vehicles coming in and out of driveways or side streets. We also have looked at modifying roadway striping or adding roadway striping, because again, it gives you a physical perception of some things. I'll show you an example here in a moment. Another one that comes up frequently with us from the public is the crosswalks and uncontrolled intersections. And again, we attempt to make these as visible as possible. It's never ideal to have a traffic crosswalk where there's not a signal that is physically stopping vehicles. But nonetheless, they do exist. We do have a couple here, and we certainly try to address those, and I'll show you some examples of that as well. Then again, the installation of stoplights, the flashing beacons and traffic signals. Again, another one, the installation of speed humps. And then we'll also look at some curb extensions, chokers, diverters, and then the ultimate package, which would be, lane reduction or partial or full closure of roadways. So again, this flies from one end of the spectrum to the other when it comes to traffic calming. I don't have examples of all these, but I'm going to show you some of the ones that we work on frequently and what we have here in the city. Again, as I just mentioned, the increased traffic enforcement and safety education, this is ongoing. We're already doing it. Joel and his crew work very closely with the Sheriff's Department. We identify locations. We do specific, detailed enforcement in some areas when we're coming up and we're getting a lot of complaints. So this is the first step for any traffic calming measure, and it's no different in any other city, and it's the same with us. Enforcement, enforcement, enforcement. So in addition to that, like I said, we utilize Neighborhood Watch to incorporate this message, to get feedback from the community, and to prevent or provide them with information on what we can and cannot do in the streets. Again, here's just a quick picture that was out this morning. That was our radar feedback sign. I'm not sure where it was at, but if you haven't seen it, this is what it looks like, and it will give you the posted speed limit along with the reading of the actual speed vehicles are going. Street signage and high visibility signs, we're starting to incorporate some of this in. You'll see some of the beacon work that we put out for the crosswalks. We have not gotten into the LED perimeter stop signs yet, but they are becoming more popular, and they're certainly very useful, especially at nighttime and on very on narrow and closed streets. And here's an example of some striping that we did. And again, if you can imagine the vehicles, it's hard to see in the photo there, but you can obviously see the white edge line stripe. And this is on Cane Hill, south of Alondra. And what used to just be for lack of a better term, just a gray street with no street markings on it, which is consistent with a lot of our residential streets. We went ahead and we did a center line stripe down the middle of it, and then when you install the edge line striping, and when you have vehicles that are parked along the curb, adjacent to the curb that you have here, it gives you a perceived, much narrower path of travel, with the idea that that perception allows vehicles, or makes most vehicles, slow down a little bit. Not all of them. No measures make everybody slow down, but this one certainly gives you a perception. And in the afternoon hours, in the evening hours, when these cars are full, or when the streets are full of cars on the curb line, it's very eye-opening, and it certainly can show that it's been drawn down to a very small, narrow path of travel for vehicles. This is very common. The issue with this is that we're typically restricted by the width of streets, and because we need our minimum 10 foot for the vehicle traffic lane, we need minimum of 8 foot for the parked vehicles on the curbside. So 8, 10, 10, and 8 will get you up to 36. Some of our streets aren't that wide, so this wouldn't be a feasible solution for some streets, but it is a feasible solution for a lot of our streets. And again, here's the enhanced crosswalks and uncontrolled intersections. We've started doing this. This will give you a good idea of what can be accomplished. What you see here in the photos is obviously the high reflective street paint that's used. The signage, there is the automated blinker lines that are activated when you push the pedestrian, and it's just drawing the most possible attention to a crosswalk location for drivers as you can physically do, other than skywriting it with an airplane and smoke underneath. This is about the most attention that you could bring to it. Then we get into the what's probably the most common request that's made to us in the office, which is that we need to install speed humps, or that's how you stop the cars from speeding up and down the streets. And that certainly, there is some merit to that assumption, but there's a lot that goes into the installation of speed humps here in the community. Typically, they have to be anywhere from 260 to 500 feet apart. the Institute of Traffic Engineers, which is essentially the standard when it comes to some of the studies that have been done on speed humps, not only here in California, but across the nation. They will make several recommendations, some of which I'll list here below, but the speed humps certainly reduce speed right at the speed hump. The vehicle speed that they travel up to that speed hump, and once they leave that speed hump, is no different than when there's a speed hump not in the street. They go as fast as they can to that hump, they slow down for a second, they go over it very slowly, and then they continue on racing as fast as they can go. That's kind of been the common theme with speed humps. The humps are only effective when they're installed in a series of several speed humps near each other on a roadway. Again, we try to keep them anywhere from 250 to 500 feet apart, and we try not to put them on roads that are less than 1,000 linear feet of uninterrupted side streets. Again, it's tough for us here in Paramount, or here in Bellflower, because there's so many side streets. In Paramount, what they've done in some of those neighborhoods is they've moved them closer together, but they're also utilized on one-way streets over there. So that's been the way they've been able to keep them tighter than what's normally allowable. That one is out of the guidebook itself, so no, that's not our city. There are no speed humps in Bellflower, sir. Yeah, no. I probably wouldn't be up here if there was a speed hump out here in the city. I've put hundreds of them in over in Paramount, so it's a little different over there, though. Once you start, there is no stopping. Yeah, so. Again, to go back to the ITS's guideline, some of the items that they mentioned here, the roadway requires an uninterrupted roadway length of more than 1,000 feet. There must be more than one speed hump on that segment of the street in order for it to be effective. They cannot be utilized on roadways with sharp curves or slopes. Sloping is not an issue for us here in Bellflower. There must not be a driveway where the speed hump has to be. You can't, and that's another problem for us here with all the driveway aprons that we have. It's hard to find a segment on a street, and we've certainly looked at it already, where you can fit a speed hump in and not impact someone's direct path of travel in and out of their driveway. And then again, obviously, they cannot be used on arterials or collector roadways. For example, I couldn't put speed humps down Alondra, I couldn't put them down Somerset, I couldn't put them down Clark. Collector streets are a little different here in town. We would have to look at the average daily traffic counts to determine whether or not it would be feasible on those streets. And real quick again, since it is one of the ones we get a lot of questions about, we have asked some of the surrounding communities around Bellflower and a couple of the other ones just outside that I had some contacts in that I can get some information real quick on. Other than Lakewood, everyone's kind of doing one form of speed humps or another. Downey does do them, and they check all the boxes here, but to the best of my knowledge, I think Downey has 2 speed humps installed on one street. I don't know of any other speed humps that are installed in the city of Downey right now. But this will give you an idea. Downey, Paramount, Norwalk, Montebello, Maywood, Bell, they all have speed hump policies. They all allow speed humps. The big factor with them is their ADT counts, and again, this is your average daily travel of vehicles. This is the amount of cars that on an average travel up and down your street. Downey, they require a minimum of 1,000 cars, Paramount 2,000, and it varies. They all require traffic studies. You cannot just say, hey, we're gonna put a speed hump in and go do it. There's a lengthy engineer study that has to accompany a recommendation on whether or not the speed hump should be installed. Placement restrictions, absolutely. Typically, they can't be within 200 feet of an intersection. We'd like to have them spread out 250 to 600 feet. We can't have them near driveways. We can't have them near fire hydrants for access with the fire department. So there's a lot of placement restrictions that come with speed humps as well. And certainly, last but not least, every single city requires a petition process. And this is extremely important to understand. The city's Bellflower, we're not going to go out and look for spots to put speed humps. If we have a resident that comes in and says they want a speed hump on Midway, by all means, our recommendation would be we provide them with a petition form and they go get the signatures and submit it to us. And at that point, we'll start taking a look at it. So. And I just want to throw in a couple other projects that we've recently completed. These were on Eucalyptus Street. And again, this is our, I guess I'm just proud of it. You know, there's a standard of kind of following the same routine all the time. My team here and some of the ideas that we've come up with, we've tried to break out of that, whether it's simple things like traffic safety or building fire museums and parking structures. We kind of like to get after it all. And this is certainly something that we had not done before. This is on Eucalyptus, right up near the Woodruff School. And when school was in session a year ago, if you drove up there at all during when school was being dropped off or when children being dropped off or let out, it was a free-for-all across Eucalyptus there. Luckily, the street's very small and there was so much traffic that it was almost a gridlock through there at certain hours of the day. But we had the opportunity when we did the Eucalyptus project to do these bulb outs as well as the reflective beacons. And it gives a much more noticeable and visible ability for parents and their children to cross the street right there in front of the school. So we had not done the bulb outs yet. We did them here in front of Alondra School, and then we also did them over here on the intersection of Alondra and Eucalyptus itself. You can't really see it by the colorful van there, but if you look to the right side, you can definitely see that we've brought those curbs out. And what that's done is when you have these streets that are so heavily dominated by on-street parking, when the normal curbs, when you're pushing the ped button, your feet behind the car. And this allows the pedestrian, believe it or not, to actually be just on the safety of the curb, but to be outside so they can clearly see vehicles traveling, up and down the street in front of them. They're not peeking from behind cars or anything. So again, something that had never been done here in Bellflower, but we shot for it with the plan that we did there on Eucalyptus, and pretty happy with it. And I think as we do some future work on our arterials, I would certainly bring this idea back to the council as part of a future design work. So with that, the recommended action this evening is to receive and file a proposed citywide traffic calming program from Wildan Engineering. And then additionally, to give direction to the city manager regarding next steps to implement a traffic calming program to be considered at a future city council meeting, or alternatively, discuss and take other action related to this item. With that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Len. I know this is really one item that's been brewing for a long time, and we waited, as you stated, for the right time to do it. We assumed COVID was going to blow away faster than it has, and so it hasn't. And so I think we would have wanted people to be here to comment on this themselves personally, but I think in light of COVID and the worsening things, it's better to just tackle this now and not delay on moving forward on this program. So I do want to thank you and your team for your patience and for having done this back when the council requested this. Again, it's a while ago, so I do appreciate the follow-up on that. I thought before I move on to my colleagues, I thought the report was really, really comprehensive. I actually learned a great deal from reading this thing myself. I was actually fascinated by a lot of it. So with that, let me open it up to my colleagues for their questions. So why don't we start off with Councilmember Ray Dutton?
Thank you for explaining to me the eucalyptus and alondra pop-outs, because until you told me it made a better line of sight for the pedestrian, I always thought it was to sell more alignments on cars. I really did. And more business and body shops. But you can't ever see one of them pop-outs with black marks on those yellow curves.
There were black marks there
until people get used to them.
Following week.
But that did make sense when you did that. And then this report that Will Dan did is excellent. It explained stuff that I didn't know about, and explained things of why some things were done that way. Because I look at stuff and I can make that better. Well, there's a reason, because engineers and safety and whatnot all kick in it. It's a very understandable report, and I think it's a great toolbox to have if we ever need it. I would suggest we put the toolbox in the workshop and leave it on the shelf for when we need it. But thank you. You explained everything, Lynn, in layman's terms. Did a good job coming across.
Thank you.
And I like the hard work that you did. And I have no questions other than it's a nice report.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Dutton. Great comments. Up next, Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I enjoyed your report as well. It gave us insight that we have never had before on traffic calming. One of the things that I noticed in other cities, and I didn't notice it as one of those, and maybe I missed it, is to take off from what you offered on the traffic trailer, where you post your speed and it says slow down or whatever. There are freestanding monument or signs on a pole, solar powered, that offer that same kind of service.
Yes.
Pretty pricey?
Yeah, for the solar powered ones, those run.
Yeah, I like the one going towards the city of Lakewood.
It's in the Will Dan report.
Yeah.
We looked at those, and mine actually might have been before Lynn got here. At the time, I looked at them, and they were fairly pricey.
The solar runs will run you probably anywhere from $18,000 to $20,000 for a set of them for each direction. The ideal circumstances, if you have some sort of power source there, then they end up being probably about $4,000 or $5,000 cheaper per unit. So
I think they're effective, though. You know, it may be at night, yeah. But especially, I think, on Clark Street there, where you notice them, I think it must have been but that's something I have always envisioned as possibly being needed in some situations.
And it's covered in here. And certainly, like I said, we can look at this program, whether it's tonight or down the road, and I'm more than happy to take some very specific instructions about detailed policies that you want to bring back for approval and adopted via resolution here in the city. So.
I know Lynn's crew, Bernie's been looking for grant money for these.
Yeah, and that's what my next question was. You know, when you identify an area where it needs some calming, are there grants that would be applicable? Only because we have identified more activity there?
Well, the best bet is to have areas identified, because when you go through a grant application, it wants to be, it needs very specific information. So let's go to the traffic signals that we're doing right now on Lakewood Boulevard that are being designed.
The one near Cedar Street.
Yeah, so I had that sitting there waiting. We had an idea of what we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to get some additional signals in there. We were waiting for the state to relinquish the roadway to the city. Once they did that, we started tinkering around with our plans and locations where we wanted to put it, and then all of a sudden the COG had a grant call, and boom, it fit right in there for us. I had it ready to go. We submitted it, and we received the grant for it. So it's a matter of timing, but it certainly helps to have your locations identified and have at least a preliminary plan or a concept in place so when you're making the grant application, it's, it's not like you're trying to, pull it out of the air or anything, so.
I enjoyed seeing the chart you put together about who had speed humps in the different cities, and you pulled mainly, did you have Cerritos up there? I don't think so.
I did not have Cerritos up there. No, it was something I just wanted to throw in to give you guys an idea.
Other than Lakewood, Norwalk, everything seems to be more west of here.
Correct, yeah. It's more a matter of who is answering the phone.
Who's answering the phone.
And today, and what I can find online for you and stuff, so.
Well, what I was getting at is when you go more towards the east of here, and I'm talking beyond Cerritos, Buena Park, Whittier, I don't see as many speed bumps in those areas as I do west of here. Now just a generalization, I may be all wrong, but I'm smart enough to know that when you put up a picture of that one bump, that wasn't our city, that was.
Correct.
And I greatly appreciate the fact that you know that once you agree to put in a speed hump in a certain location, everybody that has a problem on any other street in the city is all going to point to that and say, well, they got it. Why can't I have it? So that's part of the reason why I've been reluctant to ever go in that direction, if there's some other way we can.
And I'm only speaking from, my time next door over in Paramount, but when you take a segment or a neighborhood and you put speed humps down one of the streets, in a matter of months, you're going to have the neighborhood come to you from the next street over and say, well, everyone's driving down my street now. So you go through and that's what I mean. It ends up spreading like wildfire. But it also, in my time over there, I've seen speed humps be in place for 2-3 months, and all the residents come back and complain about all the noise they're making, and then they want them ripped out. So I've put them in, I've ripped them out. It's just a matter of, the will of the community and what they're looking for. But to try to explain it to a resident that it's not necessarily the optimal solution and that we should look at other things first and foremost before we get to that as a kind of like a last step or a last opportunity is very hard, because everyone drives up and down a lot of the streets and they see speed humps in other streets, and Lord knows we've all driven over speed humps. We know we slow down and we know we speed up after we go over them. So they work right where they're at. But I will always argue that they do not solve a speeding problem on a segment of street. They do not. They slow down at the impact, and then people continue on just as fast as they did approach the speed hump.
One of the things I was always impressed with, especially when you installed them on the boulevard near Hosanna, where the crosswalk is illuminated with the blinky lights when it's activated, and I think you've utilized it again in front of the Fire Museum, haven't you?
The ones that are actually in the pavement, or
yes.
The ones that are on the poles?
Well, you get them both. I think the ones in the pavement are really effective.
The ones on the pavement, just from my experience with them is they're hard to maintain. They're costly, and when one goes out, it's like that weird Christmas tree light string. When one goes out, the whole loop goes out, and to chase them down and to dig them up and to change one light bulb out or to get the connection, it's
I think you're telling me they're not working right now, is what you're telling me.
No, what I'm telling you is I would never recommend in-grounds. So,
really?
Nah.
We got a lot of kudos from the constituents on what you installed there, but apparently they're not maintainable.
Bruno Hosanna? That was before me.
No, isn't there, help me guys, isn't there blinky lights along there?
Johnny Rebs, there used to be.
You're talking about the ones in front of Johnny Rebs.
Okay, Johnny, I'm too far down.
Laurel Street.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm thinking of the Fire Museum.
I've seen them on the boulevard. I know I'm not losing it here.
Right.
Maybe that's historical now that we no longer have them.
Dan, is it on the street?
It's actually in the crosswalk.
Yeah, and they work.
Yep.
And there are a lot
I
of.
just don't think they
Okay.
worked in a while.
Yeah.
If I can just chime in on
They're just
that.
not working.
If I can
It's
just
not
chime
working
in.
now.
Go right ahead.
They've been working for a while.
Because in one of my committee assignments, we were dealing with that same issue, because there was a city who was sued because they have this lighted RPMs on the crosswalk. It wasn't maintained. Somebody crossed the crosswalk. The person got hit and sued the city because of non-maintenance of those lights.
It happened when I was in El Segundo as well.
So I just want to
got sued.
caution you in terms of that. I think I agree with you, Len. I wouldn't recommend those because they are.
They're tough to change
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
They're real
Exactly.
tough from a maintenance perspective.
Yeah, Len's right. Those things are worked on every 5 or 6 months.
I thought they were pretty effective too, you know.
When they're working, they look great, but they're not reliable, like you said. I know when my experience with them has been here in El Segundo. This is the first I've heard they're out now, but it doesn't
So
surprise
maybe
me.
maybe Lynn took them out. Maybe they're out because
No, I don't think Lynn took them out.
No, they
been
just
on in
probably
a
not
while.
working. They're notoriously fickle, and they were a problem.
Maybe I just saw them on the one day they were operating. I don't know.
Well, they make an impression.
Yeah, well, they did. I thought here, you know, remember 10, 12 years ago, you and I went out to Birch Street,
Yep,
Brea?
that's when we first saw them.
And that's where we first saw them. And, you know, to have Bellflower Boulevard develop, and we were already anticipating trying to change our boulevard into the model, not unlike Birch Street is, which, if you look at it, we've got some of the same elements.
Exact same.
But that was part of it, and that's where we got the idea, and when we got it, I was happy, and now I've learned that it could be a liability, so.
He's our JPIA guy.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, we'll leave you on a high note here, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem Coops. Up next, Councilmember Santa Ynez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo the comments made by Mayor Pro Tem Coops and Councilmember Danton about the quality of the work that Wilden did. I mean, it's quite impressive. When I was reading the report, I was kind of looking at kind of the big picture. And there's one thing that I want to kind of let you know that I agree with this statement. The most effective traffic calming measure identified in a toolbox is an increase in traffic enforcement. I agree with that, in the toolbox. But I think I have another one that is more effective than traffic enforcement. And that is changing the behavior of the driver. To me, that's the most effective. If we can just change the behavior of the driver, we don't need any of this toolbox, any of this. So if you look back at, correct me if I'm wrong, if you look back at the violations, perceived violations by drivers, I would say that number one is speeding. Number two is not stopping on the traffic stop. Number three is not stopping on the crosswalk, and so on and so on. So if you look at the most prevalent issue, I think speeding. And based on the toolbox, say, okay, we need to increase code enforcement, traffic enforcement. That's fine. Short of that, put a traffic stop. It's not working. Let's put a beacon light. So we're kind of adding and adding more and more to it. And I like the idea of putting speed humps as the last resort, because as well documented in this report, speed humps, number one is it slows down the response time of first responders. To me, that is very critical. Again, going back to the overarching issue here is just changing the behavior. So we're trying to change the behavior by traffic enforcement, by putting all these humps, all things, bulb outs, all these things that you can name. But I think we need to look into the behavior of the drivers. To me, that is number one. So how can we modify the behavior? It's tough, because we are all human beings. We try to say, you know, I'll do it only for this time. I'm going to speed up only for this street. We make every rationalization that we can think of to do what that's human behavior. I mean, there's no excuse for that. So what I'm trying to say here is I agree with the recommendation of staff to use this as toolbox. But on the in going into the specifics, Len, I want to ask a couple of questions. Or maybe Jeff, if we go back to the hierarchy of the solutions, let's speak, it seems like the number one solution, the most effective solution to me is traffic enforcement, because you can put as many speed humps as you want in the city. You can put as many stop sign in every cross street. If there's no enforcement, nothing happens. Nothing happens. So what I would ask is, number one is, how much will it cost to add another traffic cop? Okay, that's number one. Maybe in the future we need to look into that, because it may be the most effective way of calming this speeding, not stopping on a stop sign and crosswalk. And then on your recommendation here, you also mentioned that if there's any solution that the neighbors would like to do, there's going to be a petition process. And I really like the flow chart in terms of the steps that needs to be taken from this idea, go to the staff, and then they will vet it out. And if it's okay, it's going to look for some kind of funding. So there is a meticulous process to do it. I like to do that. So my specific question is,
if I might add, assign a cost to those processes.
I know.
Yeah.
There's
yeah,
cost to it.
we come up with a chart with the solutions and the costs associated, then you can work up the list as you need to.
Right,
That's
exactly.
really,
So I'm just kind of curious about, Len, if we were to, let's say, do a traffic hump, and there's going to be a petition required, so how many neighbors need to sign to approve that to make it viable solution?
Well, it varies.
Okay.
And I'm just speaking with some of the cities that I know what they do. You know, someone, it's 50% plus one. Some cities are as high as 75, 80%.
When you say 50 plus one of the people affected by,
so say,
how far do you go from the speed hump?
Well, it would be the entire segment of the block itself. Anyone that lives on the block that would be affected. So say we're looking at 1,000 feet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're just as an example, 1,000 feet, we have 30 houses on each side. We have 60 houses total in that segment. So if the cities had a very specific policy that requires 75% approval, then it would be 75% of 60. That would have to be in favor. Property owners that would be in favor of that, they would have to sign a petition. Some cities do ballot measures. They actually have ballots that they'll mail out specifically to the
to the neighborhood.
Yeah, to the property owners, correct. Yeah, that's pretty common in, I think, the city of Maywood, and there's one other city that utilizes that method. And they mail them out and to the property owner, and they have a due date be back, and when they're due back, they count them and they see where the number's at, and from that point, they determine whether or not they're going to. The city determines whether or not it's going to do a feasibility study, a traffic study for that particular item. So.
Okay.
it makes sense, if not for no other reason, then they are waiving off some of their right, I shouldn't say rights. They're acknowledging the liability of the lack of, or the impingement to safety responses, is what we're saying. Because what you don't want is to have a 50+1 and somebody in the block upset because a fire truck couldn't get through there fast enough or something. You want some serious buy-in from the neighborhood before you go through that.
Correct.
So that's why I'd say we'd recommend that, and the more formal the better. And from my view, it would take a minimum of an extraordinary response from the residents supporting a specific action, the study be undertaken, the council adopting formally that action before we do it, because that is a liability that I think the neighborhood needs to understand that they are going to assume if they go forward with that process.
Yeah, I would agree at least 75%, because at the same token, in addition to that, you kind of avoid what you call the buyer's remorse. We want it today, and then tomorrow, we don't want it. But if, let's say, 75% of the people really actually petition it, you have a good chance that there's no buyer's remorse.
And then you're going to have some pretty rigid standards on the removal, too, if they suddenly decide a year out that they don't want it anymore because of the noise or whatever else and other problems they may have with it. So Len's right. I mean, we've pretty much stayed away from this for years for lots of good reasons, and I definitely think the council understands those. So I'm not saying that they don't have their place. They do. There's certain places that are needed and they work. And maybe it doesn't work in this community, but I think we need to think hard about how we implement those standards.
Well, again, the bottom line to me is I hope we don't implement speed humps, but if we have to, at least we have a process to do it. So, yeah. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for indulging me.
Absolutely. No, great questions, great dialogue. This is why we did this for sure. So, up next, Councilmember Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, Len, again, thank you for keeping a tab on this and finally getting it to us. Yeah, I know the situation. So, but again, please extend appreciations to Will Dan. They did they did an excellent job on getting not only in narrative but using pictures too, so you can see how it hopefully might work. But yes, some of the comments raised again. It is, yes, it's going to take changes with driving habits, and driving is a task that obviously needs a physical response, but it also needs a psychological response. And today I actually drove on Cane Hill just to check out the parking lines,
the
lines,
edge lines,
and the median stripe. And again, as soon as I pulled on, yes, I mean immediately, from my standpoint, immediately made me think, all right, this is a street to slow down on, because I could see the line, but I could just see all cars. So if kids pop out, whatever it may be, it definitely gave the right response to me. So, but again, noting that again, everything's a case by case. Cities are different, streets are different, and each technique, warrants a response under a case by case situation. The physical environment, whatever else, the speed signs, the whole big picture of things. And maybe a quick question to you, and obviously I think probably know the response. It's maybe kind of thing, but is there a technique out there, and has any of them enclosed in the toolbox, that gets the most bang for the buck, gets that compliance through with reduction of violations, and is there something out there that has been out there for a while and seen to appear to work, and which takes from this toolbox the minimal amount of
bang for the buck would be hard, because unequivocally the greatest tool that you can put out, especially when you have heavy traffic flow, is a traffic signal. But as we know, those aren't cost effective. They're quite pricey, but they work the best. Everyone has a pretty good idea about the red, green, and yellow. So they work well.
With speeders, I'm not sure if it's fully.
If we were, say we had an issue in some of the tight neighborhoods with stop sign visibility, those LED stop signs, which are relatively inexpensive. The solar powered ones, I had the photo of one. I'll go back to it here real quick.
Yeah, the lights around the.
Correct. That helps tremendously, especially at nighttime when you get in very tight, narrow streets where you have all the on-street parking right up to the curb, right up to the curb apron and stuff, which is problematic in some of the neighborhoods here. It's relatively inexpensive. You can put it in, and then it certainly does its job. If you've seen any of these at nighttime, they're awesome, especially if it's a really dark street. So from that perspective, that might be one we want to start looking into in terms of some procuring of those types of signs and putting them out there. I think we can do it relatively cheaply, and I think they're very effective, especially at nighttime.
But to use a stop sign in mid-block of like an arterial or collector, that's typically not a.
Yeah, you would not do a stop sign on arterial.
Yeah, in Lakewood there is that stretch of Downey Avenue. there's actually stop signs after you.
It's a wide street.
Yeah, it's definitely a wide street, and
Yeah.
and believe me, people fly through it because they don't think what's a stop sign doing, you know. But yeah, no, it just, you know, it's again case by case. Again, if it's, I don't know what Lakewood still how they're responding to that, but I wouldn't see it as something that
I think again, I mean, what we have here is, you know, certainly a foundation. That's what we've given ourselves in terms of traffic calming measures. If we wanted to look at something very specific and develop specific policies in a program, whether it's related to stop sign installation or LED stop signs or bulb outs or anything like that, I'm more than happy to bring a detailed report back to City Council on all that. But really what you're going to find out is what works here in Bellflower doesn't necessarily work in Lakewood and vice versa. So again, the geometrics of a street, the traffic flow on streets, all plays a huge role when an actual traffic study is done. The amount of vehicles that are traveling on a daily through a neighborhood street can vary. It can be a couple hundred, it can be 3,000. You know, Cane Hill right now probably seeing a few hundred, but Cane Hill when school's in session, probably a couple thousand. So it really all varies. The best thing to do would be if the council wanted some specific policies or procedures relative to a specific item, then we would certainly look at bringing that information back to the City Council. But it's a lengthy process, and we want to make sure that we have all the details together and bring you the best information so you can make an informed decision on it.
Yeah, traffic engineering is quite you want to call it a science. And then, you know, you want traffic flows, adequate traffic flow to move vehicles through areas. You want, you know, synchronization and so on and so on. It's my understanding that the vehicle code sets standards for the speed limits. People use the 85%.
85th percentile is standard, yeah.
Yeah. So does that mean it's hard to reduce speed limit signs to go below, or?
Yeah, I wish I had Jerry here to walk you through that. But yeah, the speed
basically,
surveys are definitely very scientific.
Yeah, you can't take a neighborhood 25-mile-an-hour standard and put it on a secondary collector.
Oh yeah.
No,
that's the obvious stuff.
So you can't unilaterally lower the speed.
Even if you know, even if it's like 5 miles an hour less, more, would it help? I don't know. Again, the drivers are gonna.
You can do it, you just can't enforce it.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the other side of it, and that's where I was. And maybe the other one. You know, I've been to a number of the conferences, the League of California Cities, contract cities that have these vendors, and there's always a vendor that comes up with the speed trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And they always try to add the feature of a camera. And is our cameras pretty much off the board kind of thing? You know,
I haven't seen them on speed trailers, but just look at the red light cameras. You know, that fad came and went, like the winds that were blowing today.
Judges are not enforcing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's where it's, you know, again, what's the law kind of thing, and is, you know, will it be enforced or not? But again, no, this is a great start. It definitely gives us a solid picture of like opportunity, and you know, again, something that we can at least start responding to, and again, case by case, and again, it's good to have a citizen opportunity process if they want to look at it, but still, it's got to be studied, and you know, we're going to bring all the the facts, studies, and so on, and make that hopefully logical decision. So again, just want to again reiterate the thanks to you and Will Dan for at least getting us moving on this. So now it's time to to apply it if it works. So great, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hamada. I'll start off my comments by just something that Councilmember Santinas said earlier. It does come down to behavior. We're having this discussion because of people's behavior at the end of the day, right? And we're, as policymakers and as staff, we're trying to affect behavior. So it comes down to people. So I have a story. So my story is this. When I was in the military, I was stationed, my last base I was stationed in was Fort Irwin, out here in the desert outside of Barstow. So one of the things, because we are under UCMJ, which is, military justice code, we're not civilians. We don't have rights, as many rights as civilians do. So one of the things that in this particular base we had to do when you got stationed to this base was you had to go to a traffic safety course. And so it worked. And it worked because to this day, what I saw in this course, what was taught to us, sticks with me to this day. And without getting too detailed and grisly, you could just imagine the types of stuff that we were educated on. And the reason was because between the base and I-15 was a long stretch of road. And one thing that you saw along the sides of the road were a whole bunch of crosses, right, with a date. So, and there's nothing between the front gate of the base and the road, right? And each one of those crosses was where somebody died, right? And so we actually, as part of this course, we actually saw the images of the people that had died there. There's nothing in between, nothing. There's no lights, nothing. So if you're driving at midnight, people fall asleep and things happen. The worst ones were motorcycle ones. They were really bad. And the reason I share this with you, with everyone, is because I did ask the city attorney, rightfully corrected me and said, hey, because I thought education, right? That's the biggest component in this report of education enforcement is key. I don't disagree. So I'm going to be having a conversation with the senator or an assembly member about changing the vehicle code. As of right now, we can't mandate that, and I get that. I respect the law, but I know that education works. I'm a prime example of that. And the worst thing I want is for a parent or a loved one to be lost in our city because we didn't do as much as we could. So I'm willing to be one of those that's going to try to change the law. But right now, we don't have that, right? So we have this toolbox. And so I, again, just want to commend you and Will Dan. I learned a great deal from this. I was one of those that wanted to put a speed hump on Cane Hill, right? And I think as time has gone on, what I appreciate about my colleagues and just working here is I do learn, right? I try to listen and I learn, and so in hindsight, I do recognize that the speed hump there would not be the appropriate solution. And so the way this has been presented is really insightful. I've learned a great deal. I really hope that I would recommend that we actually put this on our website somewhere.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Right? I think the public, and we can refer the public to this so that they're aware of the process and why things are done a certain way. I am one of those that gets a fair amount of residents that want a stop sign, right? That want a speed hump. And I get why, but I think it's important to educate them as part of this process as well. And I think this is a really solid document. So I would recommend that we put this somewhere in our public works, even in our public safety pages. So my first question is with regards to page 7 of the report, and I'm not sure if we have a slide on the flow chart. And again, it's a solid flow chart. Just a couple things that I wanted to bring up to my colleagues and to you to guide me on this. And the first would be, obviously on the right-hand side, residents, property owners, submitting a request to install. And I get the flow chart. I would hate to limit ourselves to something. And here's where I'm going with this, is that I would hate to limit ourselves that if for some reason we run into a situation where we can't think of something, but where it requires an immediate implementation of something, of an element, of a measure that we as policymakers have the option that it doesn't have to necessarily conduct a survey of the local owners, property owners, right?
Yeah, correct. So the side that you're referring to is as if the request came from a property owner, and I can a little more clearly define that. On the left side, that's city council staff driven, where it starts on that end.
Okay.
And we can do that. So
Perfect.
if we felt that there was an immediate necessary need, then we don't have to go through a survey. We would do a traffic study. As long as the traffic study backs up what we're looking to do, then we can in fact do what we want in terms of a traffic calming measure there.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yep.
So
And
that was,
I'll clear that up a little bit.
if you don't mind, maybe an asterisk in the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
I'll leave to you guys. You guys are great. Yes, please.
Can I clarify that? Because my understanding is it's on box number 2 on the left. Is that what you're referring to? If the idea comes from the city council, right?
I was referring to the one on the right, like if the idea came from the residents.
Okay.
But if there were to be a circumstance where, we found that, hey, look, we actually,
Us.
yeah, as a city,
So
need
which
to
will
do
be on the
something.
left side?
I'm sorry?
Which is going to be on the left side, right?
Which is what he's saying, that we would,
Right.
yeah, we
That's
would.
what I was reading it.
Yeah.
If it's from the council, and I have an idea after this meeting, right?
Yes, but I mean, if, let's say we as city staff or the council doesn't know about an idea or in situation that exists, that's a hazard,
Mhm.
and if it initiates from the residents, that we don't restrict ourselves from implementing a measure, if so desired. What he's saying is that we can do that
On the left side.
under the left
Okay,
side.
that's my understanding.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
And I mean, perhaps have two flow charts. I mean, it kind of breaks it out in separately. One, this is the process with a residential or a business concern. And then the other would be the process coming from council, city manager, or staff directed. Yeah. That's super easy fix for me.
Yeah, I don't think we have to redo the flow chart. I think it's just
Okay.
a clarification, right? But
Okay.
I just don't want to, I wouldn't want a future council to lose that. And then the last thing with regards to the same flow chart is more in the middle. Like the third set of boxes, city identifies funding. Then the middle square is funding not available. So then the third one is the request will be postponed for future action. Is there a way that if there's, if it's justified a certain action, but we can't afford it as a city, that maybe put a list, like a comprehensive list of projects that are
Prioritize.
viable, but just we can't afford it? And that way in the future, if funding comes up, we don't forget about them?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
that was it on that. Just want to bring that up. And then, what else did I have? My interest also would be, I agree with, it needs to be situation specific, right? You can't have, whatever policy is devised is flexible enough so that it's site specific, because as we know, cookie cutter approaches for roadways that were designed and implemented during different times, they're not all the same, right? Every situation is different. And so I'd hate to limit staff by saying, well, the policy dictates that's got to be this way. I really would like the flexibility of you guys deciding what's the appropriate solution for that situation in that site. So, yeah, that's what I recommend. And then that really is it. I'm in favor of direction of drafting a comprehensive policy with processes and procedures that incorporate the measures, the toolbox measures that are in here. I think it'll give us great latitude in terms of pairing up the problem with an appropriate solution, and that it's methodical, it's well thought out, and it's justified. Right at the end of the day, we're responsible to the public for their money, and this is a part of that. So I'm in lockstep with that, and that's what I would ask that we direct you at. We're not there yet, but that's where I'm going.
What do you think about including all the tools listed tonight as well?
If they are appropriate for our city, absolutely. And if there's tools in here that are not appropriate for our city, then obviously not. Yeah.
If it's in there, it's because I thought we can do it one of these days. So everything that's in there is, I'm willing to try.
I'd rather give you all the tools in your tool belt, man. So, so with that completes my comments. Any other comments before we go to the public, gentlemen? Mr. Salinas?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question. How much will it cost, the cost of striping a street? Roughly?
For us internally,
Yeah.
500, but it depends how much we're gonna do, but, it's part of a typical day of my street crew's work.
So for example, let's say I'm thinking of,
Yeah, I think the Cane Hill they did in 2 days. I mean, we're probably into Cane Hill for, less than $1,000 with the paint and the time and everything.
okay, so
it's
not
not
that
too
expensive. Okay.
Yeah, what gets expensive is that Duratherm product in the crosswalks.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Not a problem, Mr. Salinas. All right, so hearing no more questions or comments from the council, Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to make comment regarding this evening's item 13B?
Mayor, I'll give the public just a moment to utilize the feature. Mayor, I'm not seeing any public comment.
Thank you for that, Madam Deputy City Clerk. Okay, so gentlemen, any last questions, comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Madam Deputy City Clerk, I believe someone rose their hand.
Okay.
Yes, I just saw Mr. Victor Sanchez did raise his hand. Mr. Sanchez, if you'll give me just a moment to get the timer on the screen, and then you can begin.
Thank you, Ms. Over.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Sanchez.
Good evening, everyone, again. First off, I'd just like to commend staff and leadership and city council for bringing this to the table and to working towards making our roads a little safer. And I really want to say that I like the creativity there on some of these projects that would avoid us getting to street humps in every single road. I also want to commend you on the work that you're doing on the Lakewood to bring a traffic light to this Lakewood and Cedar. I hope you also haven't forgotten about Ramona and Clark. That's another intersection there that should be studied, and hopefully if it meets the needs of a traffic signal as well, or some kind of other project that will create a more safer crossroad, that would be great in the near future. Lastly, I would also, I don't have any math to back this next statement, but there are some ways that other communities are getting a little bit more creative. In Seattle, you'll see 3D humps. So for those people that don't live in the community, these are painted humps in a intersection, or sorry, in a neighborhood where It looks like there's an actual speed bump or a hump, and yet there is none. And it's just all paint based, and it's a 3D. They seem to be effective, but again, I don't have the math to back it up. Just a creative idea to maybe look into as well. Just want to echo that and thank you all for your work and appreciate everything. Take care.
Thank you for that, Mr. Sanchez. I appreciate those comments. Yeah, I've seen those 3D ones are pretty interesting. Yes. Madam Deputy City Clerk, do we have any other members of the public wishing to make comment on this item?
Mayor, I'm not seeing any other public comment.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Recently, I also heard about Flora Vista and Cornuda. Just throwing it out there. So, gentlemen, any last minute questions or comments? All right, hearing none.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to receive and file the toolbox that holds all the Wildan traffic calming measures and their little notes that the mayor discussed and Sonny discussed that we talked about tonight.
Second.
Great. So I have a motion by Councilmember Dutton and a second by Councilmember Hamada. Madam City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamada.
Aye.
Councilmember Santinas.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Aye.
Councilmember Dutton.
Aye.
Mayor Garza.
Aye. Thank you again, Len. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, item number 14, consent calendar. Are there any items that council members wish to be pulled for separate consideration or discussion this evening?
Item C, 13C, I have a property within 500 feet of that project, so I need to recuse myself from that item.
Great, okay, thank you. Let the record reflect that Mayor Pro Tem Coops has recused himself from item 14C. Any items? All right, seeing none, so I will entertain a motion regarding the consent calendar.
Okay, move to approve.
Move the consent calendar.
So I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Coops and a second by Councilmember Hamada. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamada.
Oh, aye.
Councilmember Santinas.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Aye.
Councilmember Dutton.
Aye.
Mayor Garza.
Aye. Thank you for that, Madam City Clerk. Item number 15, council reports. Councilmember Hamada.
Just quickly here, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, was that last week? Between, let's see, October 14th and the 15th, I did attend the JPIA Zoom conference. So those bits of interest, and overall, it was a good event. On the 17th, I think it was a Saturday, I kind of received late notice, and I'm not sure if anybody else saw it, but there was a drive-by parade for Diane Dubois. Again, her retirement from the city of Lakewood as a council person. So I made a quick drive-by, and there was about 30, 40 vehicles, and each vehicle got to stop, and then I passed on some kind words for her and thanked her, and she enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed it. She was having fun, definitely. So on the again on the 23rd, I had a chance to do some cameo appearances at the at not only the city drive-in movie, but also the one held at the high school by the CFGC, and so looks like people were having fun, and definitely at least it was an opportunity to get people out and enjoy something, and because people getting cooped in and just having a hard time. So at least there's opportunities out there, and again, to commend city staff for the setup there. I had a chance to talk to PJ as we were watching vehicles come in, and definitely it was well thought out, and definitely everybody had a great view of the screen. Now the screen at the other one was bigger, but this one was okay too. So, again, just getting people out there to have a good time and just enjoy company and just not think about the pandemic. So that'll be it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, did I do this now? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. waiting for everybody else.
Do you want to wait? We can do it after.
Oh, I thought that was procedure, but I can do it now. Oh, okay. I had requested this meeting to adjourn due to the death of Samet Jack Sang. Samet Sang was born on July 18th, 1940 in the city of Kotam, province of Kandao, Kingdom of Cambodia. Jack, as we know him, passed away on October 3rd at the age of 80. Jack was an accomplished student. He studied multiple languages, also majored in chemistry at the university. He later volunteered for the Cambodian Air Force, where he attained the rank of lieutenant and served as a flight instructor. And while in the military, Jack met his wife, Chun Lai Mat, and they were married in Cambodia in 1971. Samet Jack and his family, they lived under the Khmer Rouge regime from 75 to 79, when, again, he and many Cambodians endured forced labor and starvation. So he got his family together and made it out to Thailand in 79, and then later made it to the Philippines. Because of his language skills, he always served as an interpreter for family and for, again, others from Cambodia. And in 1982, Jack and his family, again, made it to the United States, and they settled in the LA area, but then they soon moved to Bellflower. And Jack and his wife, they started, they're very hard workers. They started in the garment industry, and again, saving money, working long hours, saving money. And in '87, Jack opened a donut shop in Linwood, and that's where actually I met Jack, because on my way home from Monterey Park, I would drive down Atlantic and need a donut at 10 o'clock at night, and I found Jack's place. And small world that Jack lived in Bellflower with his family. And that's how he became Jack, because he just, he may have bought the business like that, and then he took on the name Jack. So again, as I met him over 20 years ago, and in small world again, living in Bellflower, one of his sons went to high school with my son, and so again, he was a devoted father to his children, so Rami, Ravith, Ravi, and Reno, and a caring grandfather to Raina, Ray Matthew, and Russell. So like those R's. Didn't have a Raymond or a Ray, but I kept telling Jack. But again, we wanted to extend our deepest sympathies and heartfelt condolences to the entire Sang family. And I know we have a letter signed by all of us, and I mentioned that to the family, that we would, again, dedicate this and then adjourn the meeting in Jack's honor, and they were very appreciative. So, all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Not a problem, Councilmember Hamada. Councilmember Santinez.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to report that I participated in the JPIA forum, and the most exciting part of the program is the design immunities. I would encourage our public works staff to view the recording of that presentation. I think there's a lot of things to learn out of that forum. My wife and I went to the movie to see the Addams Family last Saturday, and I can tell you that I'm very impressed with the way our staff planned and executed the plan. Cars are at least 10 feet apart, and the cars are arranged properly. The lower cars are in the front, the high-profile vehicles in the back, so you have unobstructed view of the screen. It started on time and finished on time, so there was no hiccups. I spoke with a lot of people in the park, and there was no complaint. So it was well done. So to Director PJ Milan and staff, thank you so much for that well-executed program. I'm also pleased to announce that I was honored to join our management staff of Southeast Los Angeles County Workforce Development to present 2 checks to 2 Bellflower businesses as part of the Small Business Revitalization Fund. So these are Royal Cuts, a barbershop on Bellflower Boulevard, and O'Neill and Associates, a bookkeeping service on Belmont Street. And finally, there's only 8 days left, so please vote. Every vote counts. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Santa Ynez. Up next, Mayor Pro Tem Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sonny, were you able to have your lowered car in the front row?
It's not lower. It's
I misunderstood. You had a good view.
The best view in town.
Well, that's all.
So he knows.
It's important that you vote on Tuesday, everyone. There's a lot of heavy stuff on that ballot, and give a lot of thought to it, but whatever you do, please vote. That's just your given right in this country. People have died for that right, and please execute your right to use it. That's all I have tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem Coops. Councilmember Dutton.
I don't have anything to say other than go out and vote.
Thank you for that, Councilmember. I have a couple things, and I'll make these quick. On October 15, I was actually one of 2 panelists talking about homelessness in our model. The other panelist was Mayor Vinatieri from Whittier. We were both hosted by Michelle Martinez, who helped both cities with our homeless models that we have. And we were there for like an hour and a half over Zoom. It was fantastic, really good dialogue. It was just really more conversational. And we've gotten really good feedback from other cities that saw it, and they're exploring things as well. So again, always a pleasure to represent our city. And on top of that, related to that, I know that the city manager and our city attorney and myself have had discussions recently with the city of Redondo Beach, which was considering doing their own homeless model as well. And so on the 21st, so last week on the 21st, a story came out in the South Bay newspaper announcing that the city of Redondo Beach has embarked on their own homelessness model as well. And so I want to commend not only our city manager and our city attorney for being models to other cities, but our city as well, and really commend the city of Redondo Beach for embarking on their model in trying to help their homeless, and at the same time balancing that quality of life for the community. So again, it's a really big honor for us to be examples to other people of how to address this issue. Last week, I was a guest of our Parks and Rec director, Mr. Milana, so thanks to him and Kristen for hosting me yesterday. And what I went to was a Veterans Memorial that we're having in construction right now. So I was able to go see the concrete pour that they did of the memorial, and it's coming along fantastic. I mean, I think our town is going to be so proud of what we're building here and the recognition of our veterans and for their service. So I'm really excited about our upcoming ribbon cutting that we're going to have for this. And the one thing that I really learned a lot from being at this event was how much lighting it's going to have. It's going to be a lot of lights in it. And personally, it's what I wanted. I want this thing, my wish, my vision was always that this thing be visible at night so that our community is reminded of the freedoms that we enjoy. It's because of the sacrifice of people. And the fact that this thing will be visible in the daytime and the nighttime is really extraordinary. So I want to thank staff for really their hard work, and Public Works as well for managing that project. Again, it's or helping managing that project. It's fantastic, and I can't wait to see it. And lastly, as been said here before, but I just want to echo, please vote. A lot of veterans like myself have served to give all of us the right to vote. So please vote. The last stats that I got was that around 18% of our town has voted as of right now. I'm hoping it'll get to 100% in the next 8 days. And I really see no excuse why it should not. So I really encourage our town to get out and to vote, exercise You're right. It's an honor and a privilege that most countries in the world envy. And so we are blessed to be in our country and be Americans and to be able to vote. So please vote. And so with that, I would like to adjourn this meeting in memory of Samith Jack Xiang to the next regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, November 9, 2020. It is 9:52 by my watch, and this meeting is adjourned.